What's good?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of this. I know there was a lot of amazing sessions that have already happened. This is the last session. Hopefully, you learn a lot about Azure Synapse Analytics and are able to use some of the features that I am planning on kind of walking through as part of your analytics projects as well. So my name is Anshul Rampal. I'm a senior product manager in the Azure Synapse team. Uh, I started off working as a feature PM, worked on some features in Azure Synapse Analytics, but recently I have a very interesting role wherein I basically look at a lot of telemetry that our service emits, and I understand how customers are using the service. Uh, where do they get hung up? Like basically a lot of telemetry data driven analysis, so that we can use those insights back into the product roadmap, create product feature backlog, and then really roll those features out. So it's a very all-encompassing role, and I'm super. It's a super fun job. Now, for the presentation today, here's a quick agenda. So I want to, for those of you who are not aware of Azure Synapse Analytics, I want to take some time to talk about what this service is all about. I want to then take a detour and talk about the new distributed SQL engine in Azure Synapse, which we call as Polaris. And I'll talk about how Polaris is enabling distributed querying over multiple nodes, very different than how we've done multi-parallel processing in the past. Then within that, I'm going to then look at Synapse Serverless because that's really one of our newest features, and that enables a lot of different use cases that weren't possible in the past. So we're going to talk about key scenarios that are enabled with Synapse Serverless, and then look at key features in Synapse Serverless. And then only if time permits, I'm going to talk about some of the data security integration and machine learning features in Azure Synapse. But my focus is the top 4 bullets for today's session. So let's dive into what is Azure Synapse Analytics. Azure Synapse Analytics is the industry's first unified cloud-native platform for converged analytics. We launched the service and the brand about 18 months ago. It went GA last year in December, and since then we've had like thousands of customers using the service. For those of you who are familiar with Azure SQL Data Warehouse, which was an in-market service for data warehousing for over 4 years, so this is the next gen of Azure SQL Data Warehouse, where Azure SQL Data Warehouse only focused on your core data warehousing scenarios. Azure Synapse extends that notion to not just doing data warehousing over your relational structured data, but also includes big data analytics as well as data integration, all bundled together and exposed to the user through a single common unified interface. So let's take a look at a quick a reference architecture or a building block of what Synapse constitutes, right? So as I mentioned, so this was an extension of Azure SQL Data Warehouse. So we have the core SQL engine in Azure Synapse. In addition to that, we've also introduced another compute engine, which is Apache Spark, and we support Apache Spark 3.0 in Azure Synapse. I mean, it's in preview, but the GA version has Apache Spark 2.4. In addition to that, we also have data integration that's enabled through Azure Data Factory. So if you are familiar with Azure Data Factory, all of that is now available under that single umbrella of that unified experience through Synapse Pipeline. So if you have ADF pipeline jobs, then you can just seamlessly put them into Azure Synapse. Synapse also provides out-of-box experience integration with Power BI, Azure Machine Learning, Azure Data Explorer, Azure Purview. So our goal is essentially to really create the seamless integration of different Azure data services through the single experience, where you as a customer do not have to stitch different services together. That basically takes many months of integration and making sure that they're all interoperable. As part of the data store, Azure Synapse Analytics comes in with Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So every time you provision an Azure Synapse instance, you get a Data Lake Gen 2 account provisioned with it. When you actually provision Azure Synapse Analytics, all you have to enter is 8 pieces of information through Azure portal, like your workspace name, your resource group, and some of the defaults around network and security. And once you provision it, within few minutes, you will have a single workspace that will provide all of these capabilities already integrated for you, and you can start. The idea is in a very low code, no code manner. You're able to start loading your data and start running your queries. I think it's important to highlight that in the market today, this is a very unique experience where you have SQL and Spark and integration all under the same umbrella. We have a lot of other vendors who would either provide like a Lego-like approach, where they'll give you all of these building blocks and you have to then stitch them together to make it work for you, or you have to, or they'll provide a single data warehousing experience, but then you have to take a massive dependency with other partner solutions to make it all work. But with Azure Synapse Analytics, it's all part of one single unified experience that's available to our customers. And the best thing is you use your existing T-SQL skills to do most of the work. And then if you have data science team, then they can use the built-in notebook experience with support for many different languages through Spark. And for data engineers, you have all of the end-to-end capability enabled to build your data pipelines using Synapse Pipeline, which is basically Azure Data Factory under the hood. So that's really the notion of what Azure Synapse Analytics is. And just one thing here, because it's a unified experience, across all of your services, you will have common functionality to do your overall management, monitoring, security, DevOps, where you can build your CI/CD pipelines and push your code to GitHub. All of that is available through a very single seamless experience, and there is not a whole lot of tweaking you have to do or do other integrations. It's all part of the same service. Now, while the last slide was just really building the scope of what Azure Synapse offers, I really want to focus on the actual data warehousing aspect of it and the data lake transformation aspect of it. When on the previous slide you saw that we provide SQL Engine, what we've done as an extension is that it's no longer your traditional, your SQL engine, which we call in Azure Synapse as a dedicated SQL engine. We've also introduced this notion of serverless SQL engine, which is essentially your pay-per-query model, where you have all of these bunch of files in your data lake, which in the case of Azure Synapse, the built-in data lake is Azure Data Lake Gen 2. You could use the serverless SQL engine to start exploring all your files in data lake without cracking them open, without ingesting that data into your dedicated engine. You can just start querying those files through serverless. And actually, I'm going to talk a lot about serverless because that's like the newer feature that Azure Synapse brings in. While your dedicated is your core data, like your traditional data warehouse engine, that's really meant for migrating from your legacy data warehouses like Teradata, Netezza, Exadata. All of that would land in your dedicated engine, which is your MPP engine, pre-provisioned through data warehouse units, all of that. But with serverless, it's a new functionality that's enabling a lot of data lake transformation scenarios. So real quick, this question keeps coming up, which is the difference between dedicated and serverless. As a user, the usability aspect is pretty easy here. With serverless, you don't have to pre-provision any resources. As I said, it's a serverless model where you can, it's built into your Synapse workspace. So you have a bunch of files, you can start querying those files through serverless. And not just that, you can expose the results of querying those data lake files back into your BI engine and start exposing that data directly to your BI layer without ever even ingesting that data, right? So it's serverless in that manner. There is this very popular concept of lakehouse analytics where you want to do analytics right in your lake. Serverless enables just that, right? Like everything is in your data lake and you can start using serverless for doing a variety of use cases, and I'll talk more about that in the subsequent slides. Whereas dedicated is, as I said, it's your classic data warehouse compute pool. You pre-provision the resources in terms of data warehouse units, starting from 100 C, going up to 30,000 C. And it's really meant for your sub-millisecond query response with features like materialized views and result set caching. So it's all about optimizing your data so that you can quickly get the results back. So that's really for dedicated. Whereas in serverless, it's less about millisecond response, but it's more about querying a variety of data, not just your structured data that traditionally you expect to come from SQL. Now, this is something that's pretty exciting. So with Azure Synapse Analytics, we've introduced this new distributed SQL engine, which is basically really yeah, I was just talking about the Polaris SQL engine that we've introduced in Azure Synapse Analytics, and it's pretty remarkable the performance the query performance we are seeing. And the point to note is that it's available today in the serverless experience, but very soon we are going to port that same engine to a dedicated experience as well. And I wanted to actually briefly talk about the engine and just the inner workings of it in the next few slides before we jump into the real meaty part of the presentation, which is around scenarios and features of serverless. Now, this is a little complicated looking slide, but it's pretty simple, and I wanted to talk about a few concepts just so that the message is that you really understand the thinking behind all of this innovation that we've brought into the query engine. Just going back into the legacy data warehousing days, typical your on-prem systems, there is this notion that the compute and the data are all tightly coupled together, right? That's pretty much how on-prem systems behave, that there is tight coupling between compute and data or storage, and every time there is a need to add more, nodes, you basically have to order in structure and then scale from there. So that's really how things operated in the past. Fast forward into the cloud world, even with services like Azure SQL Data Warehouse, what we were able to do was we were able to separate the compute from the storage. I mean, storage is cheap and it's easily available, and your compute doesn't have to hold the data all the time. So we were able to separate the compute from the storage. But even when we did that, that didn't mean that compute was fully stateless. I mean, it still held a lot of your metadata, your transactional log information, a lot of your cache. And what happened is that if there was a query failure in the middle, there was no way for us to redistribute that query to other compute node, because that particular compute node held everything that was needed to run the query. So it was a stateful architecture. And today you'll see that with Redshift and some of the other data warehouse solutions out there. But the Gen 3 architecture, as we call it, it's extending that concept further, where what we've done is we've removed the transaction log and we've removed the metadata out of the compute node and put it into a centralized service at a global level. So that centralized service always has information on the metadata and transaction log for that compute node. And all compute node has is just cache. And the reason we have cache, of course, is for query performance, but also that if that compute node fails, you can lazily reconstruct the cache through the persistent storage. So just having cache in your compute node doesn't make compute node stateful. In fact, it's fully stateless. And what that does, it gives us the ability to extend or add as many compute nodes to give basically the query performance. And it also helps to really be super performant in terms of failures that one can expect in a multi-node cloud distribution model. You're able to become much more fault tolerant with this new engine, right? So this is just a simplified version that you have the compute node here, which basically is just your SQL Server engine running without information of the state. We have the centralized service at the top, which has the metadata and the transactional logs. And then we have our the data layer, which is again separated from compute, and we'll talk about this notion of data cells in the subsequent slides. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how the evolution has happened from a fully stateful architecture to a stateless architecture through this Polaris engine. Now, I mentioned in the earlier part of the presentation that with serverless, it's not just about structured data. In fact, the value prop of Synapse is that you can query any data, structured, unstructured, through T-SQL. And I mean, that's an amazing value prop because you're basically leveraging existing skills to now analyze variety and velocity, different, high variety velocity of the data. So this is your typical data lake, has many different data files, right? These could be CSV files, columnar files like Parquet, JSON files, all these different files get dumped into your data lake. Now with Polaris, we have this concept of data cell, which in a way is an abstraction layer so that the core compute engine doesn't know what's the underlying data, right? Because we expect the query engine to perform queries over a variety of data, different data types. We've created this notion of data cell where it's only interacting with the metadata of that file and not really aware of what's inside the file. And this, with that ability, this gives the query engine the ability to perform distributed queries over petabyte scale of data and a lot of different data types that it can deal with, because it doesn't really have to understand exactly what's in the data file. It only interacts with the metadata of that file. And not just that, it's not just we've divided it into a bunch of data cells, we've also applied hash partitioning for, of course, query processing, and then user partition for data pruning, so that not every single query will fetch all of the data into the compute node. You only fetch whatever data is needed into the compute pool so that you can still run complex queries through a smaller compute pool, because not every single data needs to be carried over to your compute. So through user partitioning and hash partitioning, we are making sure that we are getting effective query performance for high complex distributed queries. So this is a data lake where we have all these data cells with hash partitions and user partitions. And then what the Polaris query engine does is that it breaks the queries into many different tasks. And each query task would operate on certain data cells. And then as an output, it also produces another data cell, so to make sure that it's interoperable and not tied to a specific format. So that's really the simple notion. You execute a query, the query gets broken down into many different query tasks. Each query task operates on certain data cells and then delivers an output back as a data cell that further then gets processed. And then the best thing about this whole architecture is scalability, because you can add as many query tasks as your query needs, especially when it's performing high complex tasks. And you're only limited by the data cells you have. I mean, if you keep adding more compute, you'll keep adding more power. But in terms of actual compute, because it is auto scale, you can continue to add as many query tasks as you need to perform a complex query. And some of these concepts are fairly new. And as I said, that white paper, if anybody is interested in learning more about the architecture, that white paper is very helpful, and I'll publish the link as soon as I'm done going through these slides. Now, I wanted to maybe, spend some time kind of, and it's a very, I really love these slides because it kind of gives you an understanding visually of how auto scaling works, how fault tolerance is built into the Polaris engine, right? In this case, you're seeing 4 compute nodes. Each node has about 2 tasks. And so these tasks are going to perform a bunch of operations on a certain data cells, and that's how the whole query processing will happen. Now, if we add more tasks to these nodes, and if the system feels that it's going to bottleneck, and if there could be a lot more pressure on these nodes, it will automatically scale to adding more nodes. and then redistribute the tasks that were causing a lot more pressure on the nodes to the newer nodes, right? And that's just a visual way of really explaining how auto scaling would work, where the query engine would be smart enough to know how to, how many nodes to add. And of course, for the sake of simplicity, I've added 4 nodes here, but in reality, it's incremented by 1 node, right? So you don't really need this large cluster. You can just add an increment of a node to see if your performance is any better, because you have these high complex tasks that are operating. And once your tasks are done, it scales back to how much compute power you need for that operation, right? So it's automatic scale in, scale out that's built into the Polaris engine. Additionally, let's look at fault tolerance here, right? Again, 4 nodes have 4 tasks each, but for some reason, 1 node has gone bad. And traditionally, what you would see with other data warehousing services, and even with SQL Data Warehouse Service, that through when a query processing is happening, and if a node goes bad, you basically have to kill that session, restart your compute instance, and then perform the query. You're not able to move forward because a node failure happened, and that was pretty frustrating for our customers. But now, actually, with Polaris Engine, if it detects that a node failure is happening, all of the transactions are repositioned to the other remaining nodes. The in-flight transactions are not disrupted, and the fact that it's a stateless architecture, you can just move these, port these tasks to other nodes without really bringing the whole, or without really canceling the entire transaction. So that's really neat, and this basically enables you to get high success rates from your complex queries that was not possible in the past. So yeah, that was really, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the architecture. And so this is not there today, but I just wanted to give you a view into the vision of Azure Synapse Analytics. What you saw in the previous slides was the Polaris engine, which is available in the SQL serverless today. But you may ask, like, why is it so confusing? You have dedicated and serverless, and they're both doing different things, and you have this amazing query engine in one form factor, but it's not in the other. And because we are all in this journey and it's evolving, our end goal is that irrespective of a dedicated SQL or a serverless SQL, our customers would get one consistent experience. And it's no longer that the dedicated would only be serving your traditional structured data that sits in your data warehouse, but that same functionality would be available between dedicated or serverless that will allow the users to query data warehouses, data lakes, ingest streaming data, do machine learning, do operational analytics through this one consistent SQL experience. And that's our end goal, and we are marching ahead towards that goal to make sure that we have that consistency. But for now, there are 2 compute engines, dedicated and serverless. There is a slightly different use cases that these both cater to. Serverless has the Polaris engine that's powering it. Dedicated has our Gen 2 architecture that was available in our SQL Data Warehouse Service. But very soon we will do the convergence of the architecture so that our users see one seamless experience. Let me pause here and see if there are any questions before I jump into some of the scenarios and features in serverless.
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay. No worries. I'll keep going. So the next part of the presentation is about where would you see using serverless scenarios in your current use cases. What scenarios are lit through the serverless experience, right? The number one use case that we see customers using serverless is for data lake exploration. And what that means is that you have your data lake store that comes with Azure Synapse Analytics. Most of our customers will put in all of their files into the data lake. And the typical approach is for you to make any sense of the data sitting in your data lake. Traditionally, our customers would do a bunch of ETL operations push this data into your structured dedicated SQL and start then querying the data. But with serverless, which is again powered by the Polaris engine, you can directly query your files sitting in your data lake without ever moving those files. So questions like what's in this file, how many rows, what is the shape and form of the data, whether I even need to use this data, like basic questions can be answered through just directly querying the file. And it's in a very low code, no code manner, right? Like you can just right click on the file and say, okay, show me top 100 rows, and it'll just pull you all of that information. And not just querying the files, you can even like expose those files. You can even like create views and tables on those files and do further data exploration and transformation. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. But the best part about serverless is that you don't have to set up any infrastructure. You use T-SQL, and you're able to get started pretty quickly rather than spending many weeks upfront to clean the data up and do a bunch of ETL on it. So that's one key scenario of data lake exploration. The next scenario that serverless enables is around logical data warehousing. And with logical data warehouse, so what that essentially means is, again, the very name logical data warehouse is that you can you have your data sitting in your data lake, and you want to combine that data with other third-party data. So, for example, you have data sitting in SQL or Cosmos DB. You can actually create tables by combining different data sets, again, in your data lake through serverless, and then expose those results back to your BI. Like in this case, Power BI is baked into Synapse. So your BI users can actually start querying the data without them even knowing that the data is coming from data lake and not their SQL dedicated pool. So that's really neat. That serverless gives you the ability to combine different data sets and do transformations on that data and just push that data onto your BI layer for quick data analytics. And so it saves many weeks of, as I said, time to move the data around before you can actually consume it. And one of the other scenarios is around actually transforming the data in the data lake without moving that data out of your lake to your database. You could create views, you could create tables, you could even, like for example, query a file and store the results of the file into another table. You can apply a bunch of transformations and just have your BI tools on top of that data and then start querying that data directly. So all of those scenarios are really cool, and we have many customers and users like using it, and our volume of serverless queries is growing every week. Very soon we're going to hit the billion mark of all the queries that have been run through the serverless form factor. Now that you've looked at the scenarios, let me just deep dive into some of the core features that are available in Synapse. And really the reason I'm actually focusing on serverless in the for Azure Synapse is because A, it's super new, and B, it's super easy to use, and there's a lot of feature functionality that serverless offers that wasn't available in the traditional data warehousing service before, and it's pretty unique in the market. So it's really exciting that we are able to bring these features to our customers, and they're able to use it without leveraging their existing skills, without really upskilling like any of that, because you can continue to use your T-SQL skills to operate over your data lake files. So this is just a quick example on how you can easily explore files on storage, right? So this is one of the data lakes, and there's a bunch of Parquet files. All you have to do is just right click on the file and say select top 100 rows, and a SQL query will pop up, which basically uses the open row set command to crack open the file and produce the results, right? So there wasn't anything that the user had to do. They could just start exploring the files, and you'll see this red box which says SQL on demand. So this is the serverless form factor that's available to the customers by default. And basically you don't have to pre-provision any resource, and the customers are charged based on the data that the query processes, rather than any of the infrastructure that they've provisioned. And for those of you who don't know what OpenRowSet is, it's just a SQL command to connect to external data sources through OLEDB, and it's used a lot. And serverless, we use OpenRowSet for accessing all of our external files. The next feature within serverless again is the variety of files. So you could query CSV file, or you could query Parquet file, and also nested files. You could use JSON functions to extract information from the files. So it's a lot of these built-in capabilities available for quickly analyzing your unstructured, semi-structured files sitting in your data lake using T-SQL. That's the highlight of the day, I would say. I know I keep talking about it because it's really fun that I can just use my existing skills to start analyzing all of this unstructured data, which wasn't available to me as an option in the past. Just extending on that, when you're querying files in your data lake through the OpenRowSet command, you can query multiple files together. You can provide wildcards, and then it'll pull up all the files that matches that criteria, and then you can do bulk exploration of the files, and that data is available to you in the same browser through our Synapse Studio experience. One of the other cool features that we've built in is schema inferencing, right? So, I mean, this is really cool, where I don't know what's in the file, I don't know the schema, but through serverless querying, it'll actually do the schema inferencing for you. It'll tell you your headers, it'll tell you your first rows, and today that is available for Parquet and CSV files because it's easier. We don't have that for JSON files, but it'll come. It'll come in the next iterations. But for now, schema inferencing is available for Parquet and CSV files, and the service does that automatically for you without you even explicitly stating what the schema of the file is. Like I mentioned before, you can actually create views on top of the data sitting in your data lake, and then hook your BI tool, so you can run Power BI, like you can run your SQL queries in your Power BI that basically would fetch data from these views. So again, you don't have to do any ETL, you don't have to do any data movement, pushing this data into your database before you can hook your BI tools. Directly in your data lake, you can start querying your files, creating views on top of it. Like here, I've just created a view from a OpenRowSet command on a CSV file, and then I can expose that view to my BI tool for querying, right? So that's really neat. Similar to views, you can create tables, external tables through serverless, and you can basically join multiple tables and provide that, and again expose that back to your BI tool for querying these files. So it's really neat. Just please note that the point here is that you can do a lot of data exploration, but if you really want your millisecond response and all of that, then this is not the place for that. Like that's where the data needs to be pushed into your dedicated, like into your database. You apply a bunch of statistics, you apply a bunch of indexing on it, and create materialized views on top of it, and then point your BI tools on that. This is not for millisecond view. This is basically making easy data exploration where you can quickly query data lake files in your data lake. One of the other very common use cases is around CTAS, so data transformation, where you can create external tables and populate those tables from through the results that you get from those CSV files, right? So like if I open a CSV file, and I run a query on it, that result can then be exported into another table. So you can then hook your BI tool onto the table. So that's where you get really fast response, because the results are already canned into a table, and you, instead of querying the table, you're just calling the results all the time until, of course, your file changes and then you refresh it. But through CTES, you can do a bunch of transformations and can also do quick, can also get better query performance by applying that operation on your table. One of the other features that is really helpful in the context of Synapse, like I mentioned in the previous slides, we have SQL engine, and then we also have the Spark engine built in. So if your data science team is creating tables using their using a Python or using PySQL, and then create a table, that table is available to you to query through SQL Serverless. So we have common metadata across the Synapse, that unified service, where a table, if it's created in through your Spark engine, is available to the users to query through SQL Serverless. So you don't have to then basically create tables for SQL querying. Once a table is created in Spark, it's available to query in SQL Serverless, which is really awesome feature, I would say. And soon we're going to extend that to SQL Dedicated as well. Right now you can query through SQL Serverless, but then very soon we'll also extend that to querying through SQL Dedicated. Now, this is something that again is very innovative and industry leading, which is native HTAP. For those of you who don't know what HTAP is, that's hybrid transactional analytical processing. And it's a bit of mouthful, but traditionally how HTAP is done, and what that really means is, so you have a bunch of operational stores, your transactional stores, like your Cosmos DB, your SQL Server, your MySQL, your PostgreSQL. A lot of transactions getting, get written into these transactional stores, and a lot of times customers want to derive real-time insights from all of the transactional data. And the typical process to do that is you will run a bunch of ETL, pick your transactional data, and then push it to your analytical store. And in this case, it's Azure Synapse. So while you do that process, your data is no longer current because you've done a bunch of processing. It takes time, and by the time it ends up landing in your analytical store, the data is already stale. And two, it just takes a lot of effort to do that whole ETL pipeline to move your transactional store to your analytical store. But with Synapse SQL and Synapse Link, what we've done, and right now this is enabled for Azure Cosmos DB, and very soon we'll enable it for Azure SQL as well, which means any transaction that gets registered into Azure Cosmos DB, within a few minutes, natively, that data will be available to you in this columnar analytical store here through Synapse Link. So imagine you have a retail website, and there are a bunch of transactions that are happening. They get stored into Cosmos DB as key value pairs, which is, Cosmos DB is a transactional store. It's a row format store, and because you have a lot more writes than reads. And then that data is available to your analytical store within a few minutes in a format that's really useful for analytics, which is a columnar format, right? So that's why you see these little columns here. So that's what Synapse Link does, is it takes your operational store without any ETL, makes the data available to you in your data lake within minutes or even seconds, right? And once your data is available in your data lake, you can start querying the data through SQL Serverless. And that's where this whole experience of logical data warehousing and data exploration and data transformation lights up, because now you have the ability to merge this transactional data, which is pretty current, it's just few minutes old, with other data sitting in your dimension tables, and then start exposing those queries back to your BI tools in a matter of minutes compared to a matter of days or weeks even, right? So this has really changed the game for what Synapse can offer to the customers. And today we offer this for Azure Cosmos DB. But very soon, our number one requested feature is to make this available for Azure SQL as well. So imagine all of your SQL Server data within few minutes will be available to you in your Synapse data lake, and then you can start querying those SQL data. You can do a bunch of complex queries, complex transformations on the data, and start getting real-time insights than compared to stale sites. So that's again something that you have the ability to query that Cosmos analytical data through Synapse Serverless. And that's why I thought it was important for me to highlight that. And because Synapse Serverless, it's based on the TDS connection, you can actually leverage Synapse through multiple clients and tools. So for example, of course, we have the Web IDE that's built into Synapse Experience, which is Synapse Studio. But if you're familiar with Azure Data Studio, SSMS, you can connect to your Synapse serverless endpoint and start querying data through existing tools that you are familiar with. And the client languages and drivers that work with Azure SQL can be used to access SQL Serverless. So we've made sure that there is low friction to adoption, and you can use your existing infrastructure and existing resources to connect to Synapse Serverless. Now that's all I had for Synapse Serverless, and I am just looking at the time. I think we have time here. And what I wanted to do for the rest of the presentation was to talk about some of the other things that we've brought into Azure Synapse. So far, we've looked at, Synapse SQL Dedicated, which is your classic data warehousing engine. We've looked at the Polaris distributed query processing engine that we've brought into Synapse Serverless, which is really enabling us to do complex queries over petabyte scale of data. With a lot of different data variety and velocity. And then I dived into actual Synapse SQL Serverless and looked at different scenarios as well as different features that serverless enables for a lot of different use cases that you may have within your business needs, right? So that's what I focused on so far. But of course, Synapse is much more than this. Synapse is data integration and big data processing, but machine learning, there's just so much more that Synapse offers. So for the rest of the time for this presentation, I'm going to focus on some of those features, unless you have any questions on what we've covered so far.
I think you're good to keep going.
Okay, great. So a lot of our customers, love SQL for the comprehensive security it offers. And the big question we always get is, are we going to get the same security that is available in SQL Server in Azure Synapse? And the answer is yes, and much more, right? Because Azure Synapse is fundamentally based on the SQL engine that we've built over many, many years of, engineering innovation. The same security features, the 3x level security where data is secured in transit at rest. You have data discovery and classification, column level security, row level security, dynamic data masking. All of those features are available in Synapse SQL. And a lot of other data warehousing products out there are still catching up on their security story. But with Synapse, all of these are available out of box. One thing I wanted to highlight here is around managed virtual networking, which you see here, right? When I've spoken to users, managing their virtual networks has been a big pain point for their cloud administrators. Especially when you're in a auto scale mode where your clusters grow up and down, you've already provisioned a bunch of VNets, and if your cluster goes up, you need additional VNets to make sure that the connections are happening through private endpoints. But those virtual networks are brittle and they break, and just it becomes like a hot mess, right? So with Synapse, what we offer is when you're provisioning a Synapse workspace, all you have to do is say click I need support for managed virtual networks. And all of the operational work that is needed to manage your virtual networks is all outsourced to Synapse, right? So as a customer, you don't have to worry about any of those links getting brittle or getting broken. They get provisioned, re-provisioned. All of that has happened in the background, thus saving many, many hours of work for cloud administrators who spend, so much time just managing the network aspect of it. And so that's all baked into Azure Synapse, along with private link support, express route, data exfiltration support. So there's a lot of the security story is really strong, and a lot of our enterprise customers love the fact that this is all out of box, and they're familiar with this because they've used this in the SQL world. I don't know if you've heard of our newest service around governance, which is Azure Purview. But Synapse offers very tight integration with Azure Purview. And Azure Purview is a data governance service that lets you track your data assets. It lets you look at the hierarchy of who created that data, what that data asset is doing, and you can apply rules so that certain data assets can be published out, certain data assets can be retained in. So that's the whole value prop of Purview. And now Purview comes very tightly integrated with Azure Synapse, which means that you can apply all of those data cataloging, data insights, data mapping to every single data asset sitting in Synapse, which is really amazing because, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, with Azure Synapse, our goal is that our customers have one service for everything analytics. Within that, we don't want them to worry about having separate BI layering, having separate tools to do machine learning, having separate tools to do data governance. Our goal is to more and more make it like an integrated platform so that these features are available to our customers out of box. And with this latest edition of Azure Purview, that just kind of takes that story forward, where now it's pretty simple. You just type any of your data asset, for example, you say customer, and then through the Purview plugin, you can actually see where that customer record was created, who created that, what's the source of it, going back many layers to getting you to the actual source that created that asset, right? So that's really cool in terms of data cataloging and data mapping. Now, this is my favorite feature in Synapse, which is the whole data integration piece. I spend a lot of time using this service. Like all of the features like mapping data flows, copy activity, different, like all of the data integration activities are available within the Synapse experience with over 95 different connectors. You can, and different ways to transform your data. You can do unions, you can do lookups, you can do joins, you can do so many different things with your data as you build your ETL pipelines. And then within that, you operationalize your pipelines. That's really neat. And it's available to you in a very no-code, low-code manner. Especially if you're familiar with the ADF experience, you will not be disappointed when you start creating your pipelines in the Synapse experience, because it's really the same engineering team that's making sure that there is parity between ADF and Synapse pipeline. In fact, we recently launched a utility to actually migrate ADF pipelines to Synapse, which makes it even more easier to start using Synapse pipeline. So yeah, this is really cool. And one thing that we don't often talk about in our data integration scenario is that under the hood, pipeline actually uses converts all of this code into Scala that actually runs on the Spark engine that's baked into Synapse. So you don't have to make third-party calls outside to run your pipelines. You actually leverage the Spark engine. And as your pipeline scales, you can add more compute pools or more nodes to your Spark cluster, and then you're able to get high performance for even long-running complex pipelines. Let's talk about machine learning, and more we are seeing this becoming so inherent in the database analytics space, where you want to have access to the the data scientists would love to run their ML models on actual operational data, analytical data, and so our goal right from the get-go is that we don't want to leverage third-party, services to train models and then bring that data back into the Synapse workspace. So with the experience is pretty simple when it comes to machine learning. You have a Synapse workspace. What you do is just link your Azure machine learning workspace, and your data scientist can create a bunch of machine learning models in your machine learning workspace. But as a data analyst, I don't know what these models are, but what I know is that what these models do, right? Like they sometimes do anomaly classification, or they do a bunch of basically predict the price of my product, or I know what these models would do. I can just call those models into my Synapse workspace, expose those models onto my data, and then start getting insights by running those models on the data, right? So there's a lot of tight integration that's available between Synapse and a lot of our ML tooling, like cognitive analytics, Azure machine learning. It's all available to the user through that single interface. And today there are a lot of different tools available to create these ML models. You could use Databricks, you could use PyTorch, you could use Spark to create these models. But with Synapse, and it's even available in SQL, we have this predict functionality or predict command, which basically takes model as the input and expose the results of the model back into your SQL table. So you're able to then leverage the output of the model within your workspace, and then expose that output back into your BI tool, so that you can get real-time predictions coming from machine learning models that are running on your operational data, right? So that's really neat. What we support is Onyx Runtime, which is becoming more of an industry standard. So your data science team can create models through any of these tools, but then we convert those models into the Onyx compliant models, and then run the predict functionality to really run those models on your operational data and then take those results back in. There are a lot of other service providers who claim to say that they have a very integrated story with machine learning, but what they generally do is they do a lot of REST API calls that goes out of the service, run your models, bring the data back in, and that is time consuming, it's slow, and you're also creating more risk because you're pushing data back from your secure network to a third-party service. But with Synapse, and through this machine learning interface, it's all happening within the workspace, and you have to never leave the workspace, so your data never has to leave the workspace. Yeah, and so that was actually my last slide, and I think we are doing pretty good on time. That's all I had to present for this session.